What are your thoughts on more nonprofits in the community?
No. No. I'm sure you will edit that out. I think that kind of the backstory for me is and I've been around for a while. And early on, when I first started out in the late '80s, there really weren't a lot of nonprofits. There were some around, especially working where I was focused in the inner city of Knoxville. There weren't a lot of organizations doing a lot. There were a few that had been around for some time. The Salvation Army had been around forever, and there was the YMCA and the YWCA and some of those kinds of organizations. But folks that were really focused in on social issues in the urban communities, addressing some of those kind of things, there just weren't a lot of groups out there. And it kind of an interesting, I haven't done a lot of research or study on this, but just from my own experience, what I saw happening in the course of the 90s when I started KLF in '94. I started an organization in 1986 and then another KLF in '94. And when I first started KLF, it wasn't anything for me to go out to churches and places and speak and somebody hands me a check for it. Was just, there was no really scrutiny on what I was doing. They were just writing me a check trusting that I was going to do the right thing with it. So there weren't a lot of organizations out there. There weren't a lot of organizations that were doing things badly, so it didn't give all of us a bad name. So there was a basic trust that was out there. So if a guy like myself that had moved into the inner city, that was passionate about working with a group of kids in the inner city and parents and families and doing something in a neighborhood that nobody wanted to go in, folks were like, wow, we want to get behind that. Fast forward through the 90s, we began to see things pop and nonprofits begin to kind of blossom, if you will. More and more of them came online. And as that happened, I guess you could say the competition got more. And so there were more people now lining up at the doors of the donors, looking for money with their passionate appeal, right? And so we really, and then now today, I think that in Knoxville, we pretty much have almost every social issue that we have in the community, I think we have somebody working on it. Now they may not be doing it very efficiently or effectively, and that's part of the reason that Alliance Better Nonprofits exist, is to try to help these organizations get better at what they're trying to do. But I don't really believe, and the first question when people come to me wanting to start a nonprofit, the first thing I ask them is, have you looked around to see if anybody else is doing this? And if there are groups that are doing something, I always say, can you join with that group? Don't start a nonprofit, join with somebody else that's already doing it, and see if you can add to that. And so sometimes it's necessary. The Alliance for Better Nonprofits, when we started it, was Knoxville Leadership Foundation had a program that was doing some of the work of ABN, but it was mainly just in the Knoxville area. And ABN's mission was, we really felt like it needed to be 25 counties. So it was necessary to start a new organization for that particular purpose, to help build and strengthen nonprofits, because there wasn't one in town that was doing it. But we did the research and we found out that the East Tennessee Foundation and United Way were groups, and they were saying, we're not going to do this work. So we knew at that point that this was something that needed to be done, and the structure needed to be accomplished. So I always figure out what the function is you're trying to do, and function form should always follow function. So what that means is you figure out what you're trying to do, and then figure out what the structure of it is that it needs to be. Don't go start a nonprofit just because you think it'd be cool to have a nonprofit. Figure out what you're trying to accomplish. If there's somebody else out there and you can join with them, then this form would be you're joining into their nonprofit. And sometimes it's necessary to create a structure. 501c3, it's important to do that. But there's also ways to create supporting corporations in a number of different ways to incorporate and create entities and forms that will allow you to get done what you're trying to accomplish. So.